hope that you enjoyed reading chapter 1 as much as I did, because I reread it again because I love it. I've already heard from one student how much they liked the first chapter, so hopefully you will continue to like it throughout the book. So we jump into chapter 2, and when chapter 2 starts, we're actually jumping in the middle of a fight. He is now staying with the Amoses. He has left the foster home, and it's just him telling his experience with the Amoses and how horrible they are and how terrible their son Todd is, and just some interesting kind of a situation that happens. So go ahead and read it, but while you're reading, I want you to focus on some things here. On page 11, it says here that he's talking about his confrontation, his fight with Todd. And then he has this thing, I'll read it here on page 11. It's the last paragraph before his rule. It says, "I'm not bragging when I say that I'm one of the best liars in the world, but I gotta tell you, Todd was pretty doggone good. It seemed like he knew some of the same things I know, the things I think of all the time and try to remember so I don't make the same mistake more than 7 or 8 times. Shucks, I've got so many of them memorized that I had to give them numbers. And it seemed like Todd knew number 3 of Bud Caldwell's rules and things for having a funner life and making a better liar out of yourself. Rules and things number 3. If you gotta tell a lie, make sure it's simple and easy to remember." So that's the first introduction of his rules. I want you to really pay attention to these, and I want you to think about why Bud has this rule. He calls them rules and things for having a funner life and making a better liar out of yourself. So I want you to think about the rule itself that he created and think about what his thinking was when he created that rule. Specifically, I want you to categorize them into 2 categories. 1, is it a rule for a more fun, better life? Or 2, is it a rule for survival? Is it a rule that he created to keep himself safe in some way, or to get himself out of a situation, or, think of that when you're thinking of these rules. What do you think? Because you don't know. They don't tell you the situation where Bud came up with this rule. But he has these rules. He has them for very specific reasons. And if you listen to the rule, you can kind of figure out why he made that rule, what its purpose was. Was it to have a funner life, or was it to make a better liar out of himself? And what would be the purpose of being a better liar? Why would anybody want to be a better liar? So think about Bud, think about where he's living, think about the situation he just now found himself in, think about what's going on. And every time you come across a rule, I want you to think about why he made that rule. So there's 2 rules in chapter 2. It has no relationship with it being chapter 2, just coincidentally happens to have 2. But I want you to go ahead and read this, and then we're going to get back and discuss some things on the class assignments. So they're in Canvas. You just click and hit reply, I believe, and then you type in your responses and click submit, and then I get your answers to the questions that I had asked you. Please make sure you're answering all of them. Don't do like we do in class where we answer one of the 3 questions and be like, that's good enough. They're numbered, so make sure you're responding to each number of the questions. And there's also going to be like a really short discussion post where you can go and answer a question and post it and see what other people have said too while they're reading it. So, and then it ends kind of a cliffhanger, right? The very last sentence on page 20, "The padlock snapped shut with the loudest click I'd ever heard." So we're going to go ahead and jump in. So we're jumping into the middle of a fight. And then we are introduced to Bud's rules and the reasons why he created them. We're going to discuss and talk about and think about, and we're going to get to know Bud even better. So go ahead and read, and then we'll discuss some things after you guys have done reading. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.